I was 7 years old when my little sister ate a tangerine I'd peeled, and her throat swelled shut so she couldn't make a sound. Mom grabbed her and sprinted for the ER. And when she glanced back at me, her eyes looked like I was a splinter she'd just dug out of her skin. 3 days later, she kicked a beat-up old suitcase at my feet. "Ivy, you're tough. You'll survive anywhere." She pulled the front door open, and cold wind rushed in, making the back of my hands prickle. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked. She stared right at me, her voice sharp enough to cut. "Boarding school. Your great aunt's house." "I don't care. From today on, this family only has one daughter." Chapter 1. The stench of antiseptic burned my nose as I stood in the hospital hallway, the fluorescent lights so bright they made my eyes ache. I clutched half a tangerine in my fist, its sticky juice drying between my fingers, tight and itchy. Mom had slammed into me hard when she'd grabbed my sister and raced for the trauma bay. My back hit the cinder block wall, and my shoulder blade went numb. Lily, my little sister, had her wrist hanging out of the blanket as they wheeled her in. It was so thin it looked like it would snap if you breathed on it wrong. Dad stood by the nurse's station, signing papers. The tip of his pen scratched so hard across the page I could hear it over the beeping monitors. I took one step forward. Mom spun around. The whites of her eyes were streaked red. "Don't you dare come near her," she said. I froze. I didn't touch her. I just peeled the tangerine. "You know she's deathly allergic to citrus peel. How could you be so careless?" My lips parted, but nothing came out. I did know. That's why I'd washed my hands 3 times. Scrubbed under my nails until the skin was pink and raw. Lily had wandered over to the kitchen table while Mom was on a call in the pantry and Dad was in his home office. She'd stared at the segments in my hand and pouted. "Yours tastes sweeter, Ivy." She reached for one before I could stop her. "Don't eat that," I'd said. "Just one bite," she'd said. That one bite landed all of us in the ER. The doctor came out eventually. Said they'd got to her in time. That she was stable but needed observation. Mom's legs gave out. She slid down the wall into a chair, gasping. Dad let out a long breath, then turned and saw me. His brow furrowed. "Ivy, why can't you be more careful?" The bitter taste of tangerine peel sat thick in my throat. I told her not to eat it. From inside the room, Lily woke up crying for Mom. Mom was on her feet in an instant, rushing inside even when her heel twisted under her. Through the crack in the door, I watched her fold Lily into her arms, kissing her forehead over and over. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Mommy won't let anyone hurt you ever again." Anyone? I looked down at my hands. There was a bruise blooming on the back of one where Mom had slammed into me, and the sticky residue of tangerine juice still clung to my fingers. Dad was on the phone. "Mom." Lily had an allergic reaction. Ivy was peeling tangerines and didn't watch her close enough. I couldn't hear what Grandma said on the other end. Dad glanced at me, his voice dropping. "She's still little. I don't think she meant it." Mom stormed out of the room and snatched the phone out of his hand. "Didn't mean it?" She knew Lily was allergic and still gave it to her. "She's just jealous Lily gets all the attention." I looked up at her. Her hair had fallen out of its clip, stuck to her cheek, and her gaze was sharp enough to draw blood. "I didn't," I said. Mom marched right up to me, bent down, and grabbed my arm so tight her nails dug into my skin. "Ivy Reed, your sister almost died, and you're still lying to me." It hurt. I sucked in a breath, but I didn't cry. It had always been like this. When Lily had a fever, Mom stayed up all night with cold compresses and spoonfuls of syrup. When I had a fever, it broke by morning on its own. And she said I was tough. No need to make a fuss. When Lily scraped her knee, the whole house turned upside down looking for Band-Aids and antibiotic ointment and ice packs. When I fell down the stairs and my knee swelled up like a grapefruit, Dad said if I could walk, it was fine. They always said I was tough, that it was a blessing. But for the first time, I realized that blessing could be turned into a crime. 3 days later, Lily came home from the hospital. Mom didn't take me with them. She drove me to a boarding school on the edge of town instead. The admissions flyer was taped to the guard shack window. flapping in the wind. Dad leaned against the car, holding an unlit cigarette. My suitcase was old, one wheel broken. It scraped loud and ugly across the asphalt when I dragged it. Your great-aunt Doreen signed the temporary guardianship papers, Dad said, not looking me in the eye. She'll come see you on weekends. We'll pay tuition. I looked at Mom. She was holding Lily's sparkly pink backpack, the one I'd begged for first. Until Lily said she loved it and Mom bought it for her the same day. Why do I have to go? I asked. Lily peeked out from behind Mom's leg, her eyes red and puffy. I'm scared. Sissy, she whispered. Mom pulled her closer immediately. Lily's too fragile for all this stress. If you stay home, she'll be scared every single day. I didn't hurt her. Whether you did or not doesn't matter anymore. Wind blew through the school gates, carrying the smell of dirt and cut grass from the football field. I stared at her face, waiting for her to say something else. Anything else. Asterisk, just stay for a little while. Mommy will visit you soon. Asterisk instead. She kicked the suitcase at my feet. Ivy, you're tough. You'll survive anywhere. Lily can't. She needs me. Dad sniffed and opened his mouth like he was going to say something. Mom shot him a look. He closed it again, crushing the cigarette in his fingers until tobacco spilled onto his shoe. Will I ever get to come home? I asked. Mom's hand brushed the strap of my backpack. She paused. Then she let go. Don't come back. My fingers curled around the strap until my knuckles went white. Lily lifted her head, her voice small. Mommy, does that mean I'm the only kid now? Mom glanced at me. She nodded, slow and serious. That's right, baby. From now on, you're our only daughter. The iron gate was cold against my palm, leaching the last of the warmth out of my hand. I didn't cry. I turned and dragged my broken suitcase inside. The wheel scraped a pale gray line across the pavement. Behind me, a car door opened, then slammed shut. The engine rumbled to life. I wanted to look back. My neck felt stiff, frozen, like I couldn't move it. When the car pulled away, Lily pressed her face to the back window, watching me. Mom pushed her head back down into her lap. The taillights flickered once, then vanished around the corner. I stood there in the wind, clutching a crumpled housing registration form in my hand. Fine, asterisk if they don't want me. They don't have to have me. Asterisk chapter 2. The dorm was on the 4th floor. The hallway smelled like mildew, and the paint bubbled off the walls in big, flaky patches. The house mother, Miss Hale, huffed and puffed as she helped me haul my suitcase up the stairs. Where are your folks? Kiddo, she asked. Gone, I said. She gave me a long look and didn't ask again. It was a 6-person room. 5 other girls already lived there. The mattresses were thin and hard, and the metal frames squeaked every time you rolled over. I unpacked my things one by one. Mom had only packed 2 sets of school uniform, 1 frayed old sweater, and half a bag of crackers. The crackers were crushed, fine crumbs caking the inside of the plastic bag. One of my roommates leaned over my bed. Your parents didn't buy you any stuff, she said. I twisted the bag shut tight. It's enough. After lights out, I heard someone whispering on the phone under their covers. Mommy, I miss you so much. The voice was soft, wobbly. I stared up at the ceiling, tracing the shape of the water stains in the dark. My stomach twisted tight with hunger. I pulled out the half bag of crackers and took a bite. They were stale, chewy, stuck to my teeth. I swallowed. The crumbs scraped my throat on the way down. The next morning was mandatory PE run. Most of the kids were winded after 2 laps. I finished 5 and barely broke a sweat. Coach Holden stood on the sidelines, stopwatch in hand, watching me. What's your name? He called out. Ivy Reed. Run 1 more lap. I nodded. The other kids sat on the grass drinking Gatorade. I heard someone mutter, "Is she crazy? Teacher says jump and she just does it." I ran another lap. Wind whistled in my ears. Dirt kicked up from the track under my sneakers. The sun beat down on the asphalt, and the rubber smell burned my nose. Coach Holden clicked his stopwatch. His brow lifted. You ever trained before? No, you tired? I shook my head. He stared at me for a long time. Quiet. That afternoon at lunch. By the time I got to the front of the line, all the hot food was gone. The lunch ladies scraped the bottom of the pot and gave me half a bowl of watery vegetable soup. Someone shoved me from behind. Hurry up. Some of us actually want to eat. I carried my tray to the corner table. I'd barely sat down when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. I stared at the screen for a long time before I answered. The first thing she said wasn't, "How are you settling in?" or "Did you make any friends?" "Have you been running your mouth about what happened at home?" I squeezed my plastic spoon. "No, Lily just got out of the hospital. She can't handle stress. Don't call her. Don't come by the house. Stay away." I stared at the soup in front of me. A thin film of oil floated on top, cold and gray. I wasn't planning on coming back. There was a beat of silence on the other end. Her voice tightened. "What is that supposed to mean? You said the family only has one daughter. Didn't you?" I said. She huffed. "Ivy, I'm doing this for your own good. Learning to be independent at boarding school is better than sitting at home fighting with your sister for attention." I stared down at my soup and took a bite. It tasted like nothing. From the background, I heard Lily's voice. "Mommy, I want strawberries." Mom's tone softened instantly. "Okay, baby. I'll wash them for you in a second." When she spoke to me again, her voice was cold as ice. "Just behave. Don't make me regret this." I hung up. At practice that afternoon, Coach Holden had me run with the varsity track team. A couple of the older boys laughed when I lined up. "Elementary kids gonna run distance with us? Cute." I didn't say anything. Coach Holden handed his stopwatch to the assistant. 3,000 meters. "Just keep up." The starting gun fired. First lap. I was dead last. Second lap. I passed 2 of them. Fifth lap. Wind burned in my lungs. The other runners' steps were getting messy. Their breathing ragged. Mine was steady. 200 meters out. One of the boys tried to cut me off on the inside, shoving his elbow out. I shifted on my toes and blew past him on the outside. When I crossed the finish line, I heard the assistant coach yell, "Wait, did she just beat the school record?" The sidelines went quiet for a second. Coach Holden walked over and handed me a bottle of water. The plastic was cold, and condensation dripped down my wrist. "Ivy, how would you like to train with the team?" I looked up at him. "What's in it for me?" "Meets. Prize money. College scholarships if you get good enough. You keep it this. You'll never have to depend on anyone." Never have to depend on anyone. The words landed in my chest heavy and warm, like a stone dropping into still water. I twisted the cap off and took a long drink. The water was so cold it made my teeth ache. I'll do it. That night, Mom posted a photo in the family group chat of Lily back home. Lily was on the couch in front of a strawberry shortcake, Mom's arm around her, Dad smiling beside them. The caption said, "My princess is finally home." Someone replied, "Where's Ivy?" Mom wrote back, "She wanted to go to boarding school for some independence." Kids grow up so fast these days. I stared at the words, my finger hovering over the screen. I wanted to type the truth. I wanted to tell every single one of them what really happened. Then I pulled my hand back. "Fine, asterisk, if she wants to save face that bad. I'm not gonna help her, asterisk." I flipped my phone face down under my pillow and got out of bed. The window at the end of the hall was cracked open. Night air drifted in, carrying the smell of dirt and grass from the track. I stood in the dark and lifted one leg up onto the windowsill to stretch. The muscle pulled tight, burning, and sweat beaded on my forehead. Coach Holden said, "If you want to win, you get used to the pain first." I bit down on the cuff of my sleeve and pushed the other leg higher. The fabric grew damp under my teeth. Chapter 3. A month later, the school held tryouts for the regional track meet. I took first place in the girls' 3,000 meters. When the teacher handed me the certificate and told me to stand at the front of the class, the applause was thin and half-hearted. I held the thin piece of paper in my hands. My palms were sweaty, not from running. It was the first thing I'd ever earned that was mine and mine alone. After school, I tucked the certificate into a book, thought about it for a minute, then snapped a photo and sent it to Dad. 2 hours later, He texted back one letter, K. 10 minutes after that. Mom called. Why did you send that to your father? I stood on the dorm balcony. Wind pressed my sweatshirt against my legs. I won a race. I got an award. Lily had her allergy follow-up today. Her numbers are still elevated. Your dad's had a long day. Don't bother him with silly little things like this. I looked down at the track below. A couple of boys were playing basketball, the ball thudding against the backboard. Silly? I said. It's just running. Girls get all sweaty and gross. There's nothing to brag about. I heard her rummaging through a plastic bag on the other end. And don't go to your gray tants this weekend. Lily can't sleep when she hears your name. I'll call Doreen and tell her. My fingers tightened around the phone until the plastic dug into my palm. You won't even let me see her? Wait until Lily's feeling better. When will that be? She went quiet for a second. Then her voice dropped. Sharp and angry. Ivy, are you really wishing your sister stays sick just to be petty? I laughed. It came out rough and dry, like scraping sandpaper. I'm just asking a question. When did you turn into this? She said. She sounded genuinely confused. Like I was supposed to be born knowing how to take it. Like I was supposed to smile and nod when they threw me away. Say thank you when they blamed me for things I didn't do. You taught me. I said. I heard a glass shatter on the other end right before she hung up. That weekend. Great Aunt Doreen showed up anyway. She stood outside the school gates with a cloth bag in her hand. Half her hair white. The guard wouldn't let her in. So she waited out there in the cold. I ran out to her. She was shoving her hands into her coat sleeves to stay warm. Aunt Doreen. She looked up and her eyes went red the second she saw me. Baby, your skin and bones. I started to say I was fine. She pushed the cloth bag into my hands. Inside were 2 pairs of thick socks, a bottle of muscle rub, and a Tupperware of baked chicken drumsticks. The lid was still warm. The smell hit me all at once. And my nose stung. Aunt Doreen brushed my hair back with her hand. Her palm was rough and calloused. Your mom said you begged to go to boarding school. I didn't believe her. I stared down at her knuckles, crisscrossed with wrinkles and old scars. She drove me here. I said. Aunt Doreen's mouth trembled. How could she do that to a 7-year-old? A black car pulled up on the other side of the gate. Mom got out, her face thunderous. She marched over fast, reaching for my arm. Who told you could see her? Aunt Doreen stepped in front of me. I'm her great aunt. I don't need permission to see the girl. Mom's eyes flicked to the bag in her hand. Don't go spreading family business around. Lily's health is fragile, and boarding school is the best arrangement for everyone. Aunt Doreen's chest heaved with anger. Arrangement? You dumped a 7-year-old at a boarding school and called it an arrangement. Mom's jaw tightened. I didn't dump her. I pay tuition. I stared at her. For the first time, I realized her words could grind bone to dust. Aunt Doreen was about to snap back when Mom suddenly looked at me. Ivy, come here. Now. I didn't move. She stepped closer. Did you tell her things you shouldn't have? Like what? I said. Like you told me never to come home? She raised her hand to slap me. Her wrist was caught mid-swing. Coach Holden stood there, his grip firm. Mom's hand hung in the air. There are security cameras at the front gate, he said, his voice flat. Mom wrenched her hand free. She couldn't. Who do you think you are? Her track coach. He let go. Ivy is one of our top athletes. We keep records of her training and her well-being. If a parent threatens or harms a student, the school is required to contact Child Protective Services. Mom's face went pale, then red. I'm her mother. I'll discipline my daughter however I want. Coach Holden looked at me. Do you want to go with her? Every eye in the parking lot was on me. Mom's gaze was sharp. Warning. Aunt Doreen's hand was clenched tight around the cloth bag, the veins on the back sticking out. I heard the flag rope slapping against the pole in the wind. Once. Twice. No, I said. Mom froze. She probably never thought I'd say no to her in front of other people. Her voice came out tight, through gritted teeth. You think you're old enough to make your own choices now? I pulled the certificate out of my backpack and handed it to Coach Holden. Coach, I have practice this afternoon. He took the paper and nodded. Go change your shoes. I turned and walked back toward the school. Mom yelled after me. Ivy Reed, you walk away right now and you can forget you ever had a mother. I paused for a second. I wanted to look back. I kept walking. Fine. Everything went quiet behind me. I didn't turn to see her face. I was afraid if I did, I'd be too sick to eat the chicken drumsticks Aunt Doreen brought me. Chapter 4. It rained on the day of the regional meet. The track was slick. Water splashed up with every step. Coach Holden knelt down in front of me and tightened my laces. Don't push the first 2 laps. Pick it up after lap 3. I nodded. He looked up at me. You nervous? No, then why are your hands so cold? I looked down. My fingers were pale, stiff with cold. The stands were packed. The school had hung banners. The announcer was reading off the list of runners over the speaker. I saw Mom in the crowd. She was wearing a light trench coat, holding an umbrella. Lily sat next to her, wrapped in a thick scarf. Dad was there too. They weren't here for me. Lily's school choir was singing the national anthem for the opening ceremony. She stood in the front row. When she finished, she coughed a little, and Mom immediately held a thermos up to her lips. Dad took pictures with his camera. I stood at the check-in table, my race number pinned to my chest. Rain dripped off the ends of my hair and down the back of my collar. Coach Holden followed my line of sight. You know them? Not really, I said. The starting gun fired. I exploded forward. Rain hit my face, cold enough to make my eyes burn. First lap. Someone deliberately shoved into me. Second lap. My foot slipped. My knee scraped across the wet track. It burned like fire. Someone in the stands yelled, "Get up!" I pushed myself off the ground with my palms. They were scraped raw, caked with mud and water. The runners ahead were already 20 meters out. I heard Mom's voice, clear as day. Look at her face planting. So embarrassing. Dad said, "Never mind that. Is Lily cold?" Lily coughed. They tilted the umbrella further over her. I clenched my jaw and ran. My lungs tasted like iron. Blood ran down my leg from my knee, diluted by the rain. Third lap. I moved up to third. Fourth lap. I passed second. 200 meters left. The girl in front glanced over her shoulder, and her rhythm broke. Coach Holden yelled from the sidelines, "Ivy, push past her." I heard my own breath. I heard my shoes slapping against the wet track. I heard the stands suddenly erupt in noise. When I crossed the finish line, my chest slammed into the tape. The announcer paused for a second, then read out the time. First place. Girls 3,000 meters, Meadowbrook Boarding School. Ivy Reed. New regional record. The rain kept falling. I bent over, hands on my knees. Blood dripped off my fingertips onto the track. Coach Holden draped his jacket over my shoulders. That hurt. I shook my head. He frowned. Don't be stubborn. I looked up. Mom was standing at the bottom of the stands. Her umbrella was tilted sideways. Half her shoulder was soaked. She was staring at me. There was no pity in her eyes. Just this strange, calculating look. Like she was just noticing for the first time that the thing she'd thrown away could shine. At the awards ceremony, they put me on the top step. They hung the medal around my neck. The medal was cold against my skin, and I flinched. The photographer said, "Smile." I didn't smile. The camera caught me covered in mud, blood running down my leg, clutching the medal so tight my knuckles were white. That night, a local education account posted the story. The headline was flashy: 7-year-old breaks regional record in the rain. Where are her parents? Comments blew up. Some people praised me. Others asked where my family was. Mom was quiet in the family group chat for hours. Finally, she wrote, "She's always been a strong kid. Running's just her thing." Aunt Doreen replied right away, "Strong. So you threw her out?" The chat exploded. My aunt asked what was going on. My uncle asked why Ivy was at boarding school if she didn't want to be. Mom didn't reply for a long time. At 10 o'clock that night, she called me. I'd just gotten my knee cleaned and bandaged. The iodine stung so bad my leg was shaking. Coach Holden sat outside the nurse's office and left a carton of hot chocolate for me on the step. I answered the phone. The first thing Mom did was yell, "What did you say to your great aunt? Do you know how humiliating this is for me?" I stared at the red blotch of iodine under the gauze on my knee. The truth. Do you have any idea how bad this makes our family look? You didn't ask me how humiliating it was when you dropped me off at that school, I said. Her breath came out heavy. Ivy, don't act like you're some kind of victim. You think winning one race makes you special? Lily had an asthma flare-up today because she was out in the rain watching you. I gripped the phone. All of a sudden, I couldn't even laugh. She wasn't there for me. Mom froze. She was there to sing. You were there for her. The only sound on the line was static. I heard you, I said. When I fell. You said I was embarrassing. You said it loud enough I didn't have to eavesdrop. Her voice shot up, sharp and shrill. You were listening to us? Coach Holden stood up from the step, like he was about to come in. I shook my head at him. Mom took a breath, tried to calm down. You come home and apologize. And I'll forget all about the group chat mess. Apologize to who? I said. To Lily. She was upset by all this. I stared out the window. Rain ran down the glass, smearing the streetlights into streaks. She wasn't upset by me. She was upset because you dragged her out into the rain for a choir recital. Mom was quiet for 2 seconds. Ivy, how can you be so cold? I hung up. The nurse's office smelled like iodine and bandages. Coach Holden pushed the hot chocolate through the door. Careful. It's hot. I took it. The warm cardboard seeped into my palms, slowly unfreezing my stiff fingers. Chapter 5 after regionals. I made the city youth track team roster. Coach Holden got me an athletic scholarship stipend. It covered my uniform, running shoes, and training meals. The day we signed the paperwork, the principal was there, the team doctor, and the head coach from the city program, Coach Marlowe. Coach Marlowe stared at my physical results for a long time. Recovery rate like this is rare. Endurance. 2. Her oxygen stats. Cardio numbers. Metabolic markers, they're all exceptional. I didn't really know what exceptional meant. I just knew I almost never got sick. Scrapes and bruises healed fast. When everyone else was throwing up on the grass after a hard run, I could still walk back to the dorm on my own 2 feet. This kid's built for long distance, Coach Marlowe said. The principal beamed. Ivy, you keep working hard, and the school will have your back all the way. I picked up the pen. I was just about to sign when the conference room door slammed open. Mom stood in the doorway. Dad was right behind her, looking uncomfortable. You are not signing that, she said. The room went quiet. Coach Holden stood up. Ms. Reed, you should have contacted the school before coming down here. Mom didn't even look at him. She marched straight over to me and put her hand down on the paper. Ivy, you're 7 years old. Training at this intensity will ruin your body. Who's going to be responsible if you get hurt? I stared at her hand on the page. Her nails were neatly shaped, painted pale pink. Those were the hands that peeled shrimp for Lily. That felt Lily's forehead for fevers. That had kicked my broken suitcase across the parking lot of the boarding school. I thought you said I was tough, I said. Mom's face flickered. Dad spoke in a low voice. Ivy, your mom's just worried about you. I looked up at him. Is she worried about me? Or is she worried about what people will say when they find out you threw your tough daughter away so you could coddle the sick one? Dad's mouth pressed into a thin line. Mom grabbed my arm. You're coming with me. Now. I didn't move. Coach Marlowe frowned. Ma'am, this child has athletic talent. We train scientifically. We don't just run kids into the ground. Mom laughed. Sharp and bitter. Talent? She's just sturdy. There's no talent there. The words hung in the air. Everyone in the room looked at me. I felt my heart thudding in my chest. It didn't hurt. Exactly. It just lit that old, familiar fire again. I pulled my arm free, picked up the pen, and signed my name on the line. Ivy Reed, 3 words. Slow and deliberate. Pressing hard enough to dent the paper. Mom lunged for the paper. Coach Holden stepped in front of her. Guardianship paperwork is complete. Her great-aunt signed as temporary legal guardian. If you have a problem with that, you can take it up with the courts. Mom stared daggers at me. You take the word of some old woman over your own mother? I clicked the pen closed. It made a sharp, final click. You disowned me first. Dad flinched. Mom's eyes glistened. I did it for your sister. Okay, I said. I handed the signed form to Coach Marlowe. Then keep doing it for her. And stay away from me. Mom raised her hand again. This time, Dad caught her wrist. That's enough. Mom stared at him, like she couldn't believe it. Dad wouldn't meet her eyes. His voice was rough. We're at a school, not our house. She laughed. It came out shaky, her lips trembling. Fine. All of you against me. Ivy, you'll regret this. She turned and walked out. Her heels clicked down the hallway, loud and angry, one after another. Dad didn't leave right away. He stood in the doorway and said my name. Ivy. I didn't answer. He pulled an envelope out of his pocket. There's some money in here. For you. I stared at the envelope. I didn't take it. Does Mom know? His fingers stilled. That was all the answer I needed. He tried to push it into my hand. Don't be mad at your mom. She's been under so much stress with Lily's health. I stepped back. The envelope fell on the floor. A few bills slid out. Nobody said anything. I knelt down, picked up the money one by one, stuffed it back inside, and set it on the table. I don't take handouts you're too scared to give out in front of her. Dad's face went white. If you want to give me something, do it where she can see it. If you're too much of a coward for that, don't bother. He stared at me. His mouth opened and closed a few times. Finally, he said, "You're so stubborn." I didn't say anything. After he left, Coach Holden closed the door. Coach Marlowe cleared his throat. His voice was softer than before. Ivy, training is going to get a lot harder from here on out. I know. You can still back out. No one will blame you. I looked down at the scab on my knee that hadn't fully healed yet. I'm not backing out. Because I had nowhere else to go. No home to run back to. No matter how hard it got. The only way was forward. Chapter 6 training with the city team was brutal compared to school practice. We woke up before sunrise. We logged our base mileage, lifted weights, did lactate threshold tests. The first time I threw up after a hard interval set. I leaned against the trash can, stomach acid burning my throat. Coach Marlowe stood next to me. Still got legs under you? I wiped my mouth on my sleeve. Yeah, then jogged 2 laps. Don't sit down. I dragged myself around the track. My calves shook so bad my laces kept coming loose. Some of the other girls didn't like me. One of them, Mia, was 3 years older. She'd been on the team for 2 years, and I'd taken her spot as the top distance prospect. She threw my running shoes in the sink full of water. When I found them, they were soaked through, heavy with cold water. She leaned against the door frame and laughed. Oops. Sorry, prodigy. But hey, you're tough, right? Wet shoes won't kill you. A couple of the other girls snickered. I picked the shoes up. Water dripped onto the floor. You did that, I said. She tossed her head. Prove it. I didn't say anything. The next day at the 1500 M time trial, Mia tried to shove me into the curb on the turn. I let her. She thought I was scared. She tried it again the second time around. On the last lap, I kicked on the straightaway and blew right past her. I finished 16 seconds ahead of her. Coach Marlowe called her out right there in front of everyone. Mia, that was dirty running on the turn. 10 extra laps. Mia's face turned bright purple. I walked over to her. I cleaned the shoes, I said. She glared at me. I set one of the still damp shoes down at her feet. You throw 'em again. I'll just keep winning in them. Nobody laughed after that. That night, I got a phone call from Lily. She almost never called me. I answered. I heard her voice, small and quiet, like she was hiding somewhere. Ivy? It had been so long since I'd heard her say my name like that. It sounded strange. What do you want? Mom said you made the city team. Uh-huh. She was quiet for a second. Do you hate me? I sat on the edge of my bed, feet soaking in a tub of hot water with Epsom salt. You want the truth? Yeah, I used to, I said. Then I got too tired to hate you. She breathed in sharp, like she'd been holding her breath. "I didn't mean to eat the tangerine that day," she said. "I really didn't." "I know. But Mom kept saying you did it on purpose. That you wanted to hurt me." I paused. Did you believe her? She didn't say anything. That silence was louder than any yes. I lifted my feet out of the water. The towel scraped against the blisters on my heels. "Lily, you can't enjoy all the extra attention and then act like you had no idea what was happening." She started crying. Quiet. Sniffling sobs. Leaking through the phone. "I didn't ask to be sick all the time. I didn't ask to be thrown away," I said. She stopped crying. I hung up. The next day, Mom stormed onto the training field. She looked worse than the last time. She was waving a stack of doctor's notes in her hand. "What did you say to Lily last night?" She cried for hours. "She had an asthma attack this morning. I'd just finished intervals. Sweat was dripping down my neck." I told her the truth. Mom threw the papers at me. The edge of one scraped my collarbone. "Are you trying to kill your sister?" I bent down and picked them up. Allergy reports. Asthma logs. Abnormal immune panels. I handed them back to her. "She needs a doctor, not someone to blame." Mom pointed her finger right in my face. "How can you have no heart? No sisterly bond at all?" I stared at her finger. "When you sent me away, did you ever think about motherly bond?" The other runners had stopped to watch. Mia stood in the back, her mouth half open. Mom noticed the crowd. Her tone shifted immediately. Softer. Sweeter. Performative. "Ivy. Honey, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just so stressed about your sister. I'm sorry if I scared you." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Her hand hung in the air. For a second, I saw panic flash in her eyes. Not because she'd hurt me, because I wouldn't let her touch me anymore. Coach Marlowe walked over. "Training field is closed to family during practice. If you need to talk, make an appointment at the office." Mom's jaw tightened. "I'm her mother." Coach Marlowe looked right at her. "Per our guardianship file, her primary contacts are her great-aunt and the school administration." Mom's face drained of color. "Ivy, are you really cutting us off completely?" I wiped sweat off my chin with the towel. "You're the one who said the family only had one kid." Her mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. I turned and walked back to the track. The whistle blew. I took off. Behind me, Mom yelled my name. I didn't slow down. Chapter 7. I was 10 years old when I won the state youth long-distance championship. Standing on the podium, the lights made the trophy glow. A reporter held a microphone out to me and asked who I wanted to thank most. I held the mic. I saw Coach Holden in the second row. Aunt Doreen sat next to him, clutching a pack of tissues in her hand. "I want to thank my great-aunt Doreen," I said. "My coach, Mr. Holden, and Coach Marlowe." The reporter pressed further. "What about your parents?" I paused. The whole room went quiet. "They have another kid to take care of," I said. That line went viral that same day. The headline was sharper than the regional meet one. Champion runner thanks everyone but her parents, says they have another kid to take care of. Someone leaked screenshots from the family group chat. Aunt Doreen's line, tough. "So you threw her out?" Was everywhere. Mom started calling me. Once. Twice. A dozen times. I didn't answer. She called Coach Holden instead. He put the phone on speaker on the desk. Mom's voice came through loud and frantic. "Coach Holden, you can't let her say things like that. She's too young to understand how this looks." Coach Holden flipped through my training log. "Is it true?" he said. Mom froze. "Family matters are private. You can't just air them in public." "Ms. Reed," Coach Holden said, "family isn't a free pass to treat a kid like garbage." Dad's voice came through in the background. "Stop arguing. We need to get this taken down first." Mom's voice was tight with frustration. "Taken down? How? Everyone's calling me a bad mom. Everyone's talking about favoritism." I sat on the edge of the desk, peeling a hard-boiled egg. The shell cracked into little white pieces on the plate. Coach Holden glanced at me. I shook my head. He said into the phone, "She is training this afternoon. We're hanging up now." Mom suddenly yelled, "Is Ivy there? Is she right there with you?" I didn't make a sound. Her voice softened all at once. Sickly sweet. Begging. "Ivy. Baby. Stop this. Mommy knows you're hurt. But you're making the whole family look terrible." I popped the whole egg in my mouth. It was dry. I chased it with a sip of water before I spoke. "You didn't care about how I looked when you threw me out." The line went dead silent. Dad said, "Ivy, I'll come see you. We can talk. Don't bother." I said. Mom snapped. "What do you want from us? Do you want an apology? Is that it?" I said. "What are you apologizing for?" She went quiet again. I said it for her. For sending me away? For saying the family only had one daughter? For telling everyone I begged to go to boarding school? For blaming me every single time Lily got sick? With every question. The line went quieter. Finally, she snapped. "Are you really gonna hold all that against me forever?" I said. "You never paid the debt. Why would I turn the page?" She cursed and slammed the phone down. The viral story didn't go away. It started affecting the family business. Dad's construction supply company started getting calls from clients asking if he'd really abandoned his oldest daughter. Mom's beauty salon got flooded with one-star reviews. Kids at school started whispering about Lily. 3 days later, Mom posted a photo on Instagram. It was a picture of me and Lily when we were little. The caption said, "I love both my girls equally. Every child needs love in different ways." I stared at the photo for a long time. We were wearing matching dresses. Hers was brand new. Mine was the one she'd outgrown because she said the waist was too tight. Matching. Just worn out in different ways. I screenshotted it and sent it to Aunt Doreen. Aunt Doreen commented right there under the post, "You loved Ivy so much you dumped her at boarding school at 7. You loved Lily so much you spoiled her rotten. Your love is a curse." Mom deleted the post an hour later. That night, Lily texted me. Asterisk, "Can I see you?" "Please." Asterisk, I wrote back, "No." She texted again, "I have something I need to say to you." I stared at the screen. Coach Holden set the new training plan down on the table. "You don't owe her a reply," he said. "I know." I said. "She's not here because she misses me. She's here to be the good guy and make this all go away." Coach Holden didn't disagree. I flipped my phone face down. The next day, Lily showed up outside the training center anyway. She was wearing a mask. Her face pale as paper. Mom was holding her arm. Mia ran in to tell me, "Hey, your mom and sister are outside. They're making a scene." I walked out. Lily's eyes filled with tears the second she saw me. Mom nudged her forward. Lily twisted the hem of her shirt. Her voice was shaking. "I'm sorry. Ivy." A few people stopped to watch. I looked at her. "Sorry for what?" Her mouth opened. Her eyes started over to Mom. Mom cut in. Urgent and sharp. "She's apologized. How much longer are you going to punish her?" I smiled a little. Let her finish. Tears rolled down Lily's face. "I'm sorry I ate that tangerine when I knew I shouldn't." I said. "What else?" She bit her lip. Mom's face went cold. "Ivy, that's enough." I kept my eyes on Lily. "What else?" She was crying so hard her shoulders shook. "I'm sorry, I knew you didn't do it on purpose. And I never said anything. I liked that Mom only paid attention to me." The crowd went quiet. Mom's face twisted. I nodded. "Okay. I heard you." Lily looked up. A flicker of hope in her eyes. "Then, will you come home for dinner?" Mom said no, I said. The light went out. Apologizing is the right thing to do. Forgiving you is my choice. And I'm not there yet. Mom dropped the nice act completely. "How can you be so cruel?" I looked right at her. "You taught me how." Chapter 8 When I was 12. A sports science research institute selected me for their youth endurance study. It wasn't anything weird. They tested how young athletes adapted to high altitude, cold weather, and long-distance effort. Coach Marlowe said my recovery rate and fatigue resistance were unusual enough to study. If the data held up, I could have a shot at the National Junior Training Program. The day we signed the consent forms and confidentiality agreement, Aunt Doreen put on her reading glasses and went through every line. She didn't understand half the medical words. So she made the doctor explain them one by one. "Is this going to hurt her?" she asked. The doctor explained over and over that it was all legal, all monitored, that minors only did non-invasive tests. Only then did Aunt Doreen sign her name. She looked up at me after she set the pen down. "You feel even a little bad. You stop. You hear me? Don't run yourself ragged just to prove a point." I nodded. The first round of testing was at a high-altitude training base. The air was thin. Wind scraped at your face. Your skin felt tight all the time. Most of the other kids got headaches. Nausea. Couldn't sleep. I slept 6 hours straight and showed up to training the next day like nothing was wrong. The doctor stared at his data, eyes wide. "Ivy, do you feel any discomfort at all?" "No." "Headache? Chest tightness? Heart flutters?" "No." Coach Holden laughed a little from the side. "Once she ran a 3K in the rain, fell and scraped her knee open, and showed up for strength training the next day like nothing happened." The doctor looked at me like I was a museum exhibit. I didn't like it. Coach Holden stepped a little in front of me. "She's an athlete, not a lab rat." The doctor cleared his throat. "Right. Sorry. Professional habit." The study got written up in a few sports journals later. They didn't mention my family, just called me a promising young endurance talent. Mom still found out. She started calling the institute over and over. At first, she said she was the legal guardian and demanded to see all the records. They asked for proof. She couldn't provide any. Then she showed up at the base gate with Dad and Lily. It was snowing that day. I was walking back to the dorms after training when I saw her standing outside the guard booth. A layer of snow on her shoulders. Lily was in the car, wrapped in a puffer jacket, coughing. Dad walked over to me as soon as he saw me. "Ivy, come with us for a minute." I took my gloves off. "Why?" Mom's face was blue with cold, but her voice was hard as nails. "Lily's getting worse. Her immune system is crashing. The doctors want to run more tests. We need you to get tested too, see if you're a match. If there's any treatment overlap." I stared at her. Snow landed on my eyelashes, melted, and ran cold down my cheek. "So you came all the way here because you need something from me?" I said. Mom frowned. "She's your sister. What am I to you?" She froze. Dad spoke in a low voice. "Ivy, this is about saving a life." I said, "What kind of test does she want me to do?" Dad threw out a bunch of medical terms. I didn't catch all of it. Blood work, immune panels, possible donor matching for future treatments. One of the institute's doctors came over to see what was going on. He listened, and his face got dark. Any medical testing on a minor has to go through proper ethical and legal channels. You can't just show up and take her. And more importantly, this girl is an athlete. She is not a spare part for her sister. Mom lost it. "Spare part?" "She's her sister. I'm just asking her to help." I said, "I'm not going." Mom's eyes went wide. "You won't even get tested?" "No." Lily pushed the car door open and stumbled out, coughing so hard she doubled over. She looked up at me, her eyes red and wet. "Am I gonna die?" "Ivy?" The words hung in the cold air. Everyone went quiet. For a second, I remembered her when she was little, tugging on my sleeve and saying my tangerines tasted sweeter. Then I remembered Mom shoving my suitcase at me at the boarding school gate, saying the family only had one daughter. I said, "You want to live. So you're gonna drag me back and use me like medicine?" Lily shook her head, crying. "I don't know. Mom said you're the only one who can help me." I looked at Mom. Mom said, quickly, softening her voice, "The doctors didn't say for sure. It's just a possibility. Ivy, please. Mommy's begging you. Just get the tests done." Begging. The word sounded weird coming from her mouth. But her back was still straight. Her chin was still up. She wasn't begging. She was just wrapping an order in soft words. I put my gloves back on. "Go through the proper channels. Get a lawyer. Talk to the doctors. Talk to my legal guardian. Don't stand out here and ambush me at the gate." Mom was shaking with anger. "What? Do you want us to get on our knees and beg you?" I looked right at her. "Even if you did, it wouldn't work." She clapped a hand over her chest. Dad grabbed her to hold her up. Lily started crying louder. I turned and walked back into the base. The door clicked shut behind me, blocking out the snow and the wind and all of them. I leaned back against the wall, my fingers curling slowly into fists. Coach Holden stood a little ways away. He didn't say anything. I stood there for a long time. Then I said, "Quiet. Am I being too mean?" He walked over and pressed a thermos of hot tea into my hands. "You're not a doctor, and you don't owe them a debt." The metal burned warm against my palms. I took a sip. It went down my throat and smoothed out the tight, sour feeling in my chest. Chapter 9. Mom didn't go through proper channels. She went a different route. A long article popped up online overnight. The headline said, "Champion runner refuses to save sick little sister. Mother waits hours in the snow and gets turned away." In the story. I was a cold, spoiled athlete who'd let fame go to her head. Mom was a poor, suffering mother who'd done everything she could. Lily was a dying little girl waiting for her sister to show mercy. The photo was a picture of Mom's back, standing in the snow. It was a very careful angle. It didn't show her ambushing the base gate. It didn't show her trying to drag me away. And it definitely didn't show 7-year-old me dragging a broken suitcase into a boarding school. At first, the comments were brutal. People said I had no heart. People said no grudge was worth letting someone die. People said blood was thicker than water. Coach Holden told me not to read them. I read them anyway. I scrolled and scrolled, my fingers cold and stiff. When I saw someone say I was a disgrace to the country and shouldn't be allowed to compete, I turned my phone off. Out on the track, the wind was sharp. I ran 10 kilometers straight and threw up on the side of the road. Not from being tired. From the burning, tight feeling in my stomach. Coach Marlowe slammed his fist on the desk. "Who paid for this hit piece?" Coach Holden spread out a stack of papers. "We can find out." Aunt Doreen showed up at the base the next day. She'd taken an overnight train. Her eyes were red and bloodshot. The second she walked in the door, she pulled me into a hug. She smelled like train seats and laundry detergent. "Don't you be scared, baby. Auntie's here." I didn't cry, but when she hugged me, my knees almost gave out. On the third day of the scandal, the Institute released an official statement. It said I was a minor. All medical procedures had to follow legal protocol, and family disputes shouldn't be settled through online harassment. It didn't help much. People online didn't care about protocol. They just wanted me to apologize, to give in. Mom did a TV interview. On camera, she cried perfectly, steady tears rolling down her cheeks. I know I haven't always been perfect with Ivy, but Lily doesn't have time. I'm just a mother. I can't sit by and watch my baby girl suffer. The reporter asked, "Is it true you sent your older daughter away to boarding school?" She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. That was a misunderstanding. Ivy was always very independent. She wanted to go. We supported her choice. I turned the tablet off. Aunt Doreen was shaking with anger. "She's still lying. After all this time." I said, "Let her." Coach Holden looked at me. I pulled an old manila envelope out from the bottom of my closet. Inside was the housing registration form, a copy of the temporary guardianship papers, transcripts of the voice messages Mom had sent Aunt Doreen back then, screenshots from the family group chat. At the very bottom was a backup of the security camera footage from the boarding school gate. Coach Holden blinked. "When did you get all this?" "The principal gave it to me," I said. "He said a kid should know how to protect herself." I pushed the envelope across the table. "Release it." The day the footage went public, the internet went quiet for a few minutes. In the video, 7-year-old me stood at the school gate with a broken suitcase. Mom said, "From today on, this family only has one daughter." Little me said, "Will I ever get to come home?" And she said, "Don't come back." The audio was clear. The wind was clear. The scrape of the broken suitcase wheel on the pavement was clear. The comments flipped overnight. People started calling Mom out. People lined up every line from her interview next to the footage and fact-checked her. People said, "Who sends a 7-year-old to boarding school because they want to go?" People showed up outside her salon to protest. Dad's biggest clients pulled their contracts. Lily's school suggested she finish the semester at home to avoid the attention. Mom finally called me. This time, she wasn't yelling. She was crying, sobbing my name. Ivy. Baby. Mommy, sorry. Please take the video down. Please. I sat on the steps of the training center. One of my shoelaces had come loose. I didn't post it. The truth did. She was gasping. Hysterical. Are you trying to kill me? Are you trying to ruin this whole family? I laced my shoe back up, pulling the knot tight. I heard that line when I was 7. I'm tired of it. Ivy. I really am sorry. I know I was wrong. You're not sorry you did it. I said. You're sorry you got caught. She stopped crying. You're scared people are talking about you. You're scared the salon will close. You're scared Lily will get bullied. You're scared Dad's company will fall apart. You're scared of a lot of things. You just never were scared of hurting me. There was a crash on the other end of the line. Like something glass had shattered. Dad picked up the phone. He sounded older. Tired. Ivy. Your mom hasn't slept in days. She's falling apart. I looked up at the lights on top of the training center. They were so bright they hurt. Then take her to a doctor. Just come home. Let's all sit down and talk about this like a family. I said. I don't have a family. He went quiet. I hung up. Outside. The snow had stopped. There was a thin layer of ice on the ground. I stepped on it. It cracked with a sharp, clean sound. Chapter 10. The national championship was when I was 15. I'd made it all the way to the finals. The Research Institute published their full findings that same year. And my name started getting noticed by people in the sport. It wasn't magic. I wasn't invincible. I just had a higher pain tolerance, faster recovery, and a stronger immune system than most people. Everyone said I was born to do this. Only I knew the first meal I'd ever eaten on my own was cold, stale, and tasted like being thrown away. The day before the final, Mom showed up at my hotel. She didn't bring Lily this time. She stood alone in the lobby, holding an insulated thermos bag. I was coming back from my pre-race shakeout run, still sweaty. Her eyes went red the second she saw me. Ivy. I stopped 3 feet away. She held the thermos out toward me. I made you soup. Your favorite. I stared at the bag. When I was little, every time Lily came home from a doctor's appointment, Mom made soup. I only ever got the leftovers. Once, I took the last piece of corn out of the pot. Lily cried. Mom picked it right out of my bowl and put it back in Lily's. She said Lily was sick. I should be more understanding. I didn't take the thermos. What do you want? Her hand hung in the air. She'd lost a lot of weight. There was gray at the roots of her hair, dark circles under her eyes. A few years ago, that would have made me feel bad. Now I just thought. Asterisk, finally. She's tripped over all the things she planted. Asterisk, she set the thermos down on a side table. Her voice got quieter. Lily's not doing well. I didn't say anything. The doctors say if we can't find a better treatment plan, she might have to live in the hospital long term. She looked up at me. Ivy, I'm begging you. Just get tested. Please. I said. What about the legal process? Her mouth twisted. We talked to lawyers. They said we need your consent. And your great aunts. Then you should talk to her. She won't see me. I nodded. Smart woman. Tears rolled down Mom's cheeks. Do you really hate me that much? I looked at her. I don't hate you anymore. A flicker of hope lit up her face. Then I said, hating you takes too much energy. The light went out completely. She took a step toward me. Ivy, I admit it. I was wrong back then. I never should have sent you away. I never should have said those things. I was just so scared. Every time Lily had an allergic reaction, I panicked. I couldn't think straight. I said, and you stayed panicked for 7 years? Her face went white. You stayed panicked every time I won a race and you said it didn't matter? You stayed panicked when you lied to all the relatives about me wanting to leave? You stayed panicked when you paid for that article calling me a monster? With every sentence, her shoulders hunched a little lower. Finally, she grabbed the edge of the table to hold herself up. Her fingers crumpled the tablecloth. I just wanted to save your sister. I said. You only ever wanted to save her. People in the lobby were starting to stare. Mom took a shaky breath. And then she dropped to her knees. Her knee hit the marble floor with a dull, heavy thud. People gasped. She reached for my pant leg. I stepped back. Just one step. Her fingers grabbed at empty air. They brushed the edge of the fabric and caught nothing. Ivy, please. Save Lily. Save this family. I'm begging you. I looked down at her. I'd imagined this moment for years. When I was 7, dragging my suitcase through the school gate, I wondered if she'd ever regret it. When I was 10, watching everyone call me heartless online, I wondered if she'd ever feel what I felt. When I was 12, standing in the snow while she begged me to be a test subject, I wondered what it would look like if she got on her knees. Now that it was happening, I didn't feel anything. Just cold. Flat nothing. I said, You said the family only had one daughter. Mom looked up, her face streaked with tears and snot. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You did. I said. I knelt down a little. So I was eye level with her. You meant every single word. Her mouth trembled. I said, You also said I was tough, that I'd survive anywhere. You were right. So if your family is falling apart now, that's not my problem. A small, strangled sound came out of her throat. She swayed to the side like she was going to faint. Dad ran in from outside and caught her. He'd been waiting out there the whole time. He looked at me, half angry, half begging. Ivy, she's still your mother. I stood up. She still threw me away. Dad closed his mouth. I turned to leave. From behind me, I heard Lily's voice. Ivy. I turned around. Lily was in a wheelchair, pushed by a nurse. She was so thin. Her wrists stuck out of her sleeves. Her skin almost see-through. She looked at Mom on the floor, then looked at me. I'm sorry. This time. She didn't glance at Mom for approval. I know I got all the attention. I know I enjoyed it. When you got sent away, I was happy, because Mom was finally all mine. Mom cried out, Lily, stop. Lily shook her head. She coughed a little. I have to say it. She looked at me. Tears hung on her chin. I'm scared of dying, but I don't get to make you save me. It's not your job. The lobby was dead quiet. You could hear the air conditioner hum. I looked at her. This little sister. I'd hated her. I'd been tired of her. I'd felt sorry for her. But feeling sorry for someone didn't mean I had to give them pieces of myself. I said, Lily, the doctors will treat your disease. Your life is your own to carry. She nodded. I know. Mom collapsed further onto the floor, muttering to herself. No, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Dad held her up, his eyes red. He didn't say a word. I pushed the thermos back toward them across the table. The soup sloshed inside. It made a dull, heavy sound. I have a race tomorrow. I said, Don't get in my way. Chapter 11. I ran a steady race in the final. When the gun went off, wind whistled past my ears, and the roar of the crowd blurred into one big sound. Some girls went out hard in the first half. I didn't chase them. Coach Marlowe signaled from the sidelines. Coach Holden stood next to him, holding my jacket. Aunt Doreen was in the front row of the stands, her hands folded together, muttering to herself. With 2 laps to go, I started my kick. One girl tried to box me in. I went around her on the outside. My shoes hit the track fast. Steady, one after another. With 100 meters left, I heard the announcer yell my name. Ivy Reed. The finish line got closer and closer. When I crossed it, my chest was on fire. My throat tasted like blood. First place. National champion. I bent over, hands on my knees, dripping sweat onto the track. It evaporated fast under the stadium lights. Coach Holden ran over and put the jacket around my shoulders. Aunt Doreen came down from the stands, running so fast she almost tripped. She threw her arms around me and cried so hard she couldn't talk. I patted her back. I won. Aunt Doreen. She nodded. Snot and tears all over my shoulder. On the podium, they raised the flag. They put the gold medal around my neck. It was heavier than the state one. A reporter held the mic out to me again. Ivy, is there anything you want to say to your family tonight? I held the mic. I looked out into the crowd. I saw Mom. She was standing at the very back, not pushing forward. Dad was holding her up. Lily was in her wheelchair, wrapped in a blanket. All three of them were looking at me. This time, I didn't look away. I want to say thank you to my great Aunt Doreen. I said, thank you for catching me when no one else would. Aunt Doreen covered her mouth in the front row. I want to thank Coach Holden and Coach Marlowe. Thank you for training me like a person, not like someone's spare part. The reporter pressed again. What about your parents? The whole stadium went tense. I looked right at Mom. Her mouth was slightly open. Her fingers were white around the strap of her purse. Nothing. I said, I'm done. The cameras caught it. The internet blew up again. Some people said I was too harsh. Some people said I'd finally earned the right to walk away. I didn't read any of it. After the meet, I got a letter from a lawyer. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a draft of a property agreement from Dad. He wanted to sign one of the family houses over to me as compensation. I read it once and emailed the lawyer back. No, thank you. The lawyer called me to confirm. Ms. Reed, this is a very valuable property. Are you certain you want to decline? I'm certain. Your father says it's their way of making amends. I looked out the window at the training track. A group of little kids were warming up, clumsy and earnest. What they owe me can't be paid back with a house. What would you prefer? Then, I thought about it. Tell them to donate the money to a youth services fund for kids who've been hurt or abandoned by their guardians. The lawyer was quiet for a second. That would require their consent. Then don't worry about it, I said. 3 days later, Dad agreed. The donation announcement went up. He didn't do a press release. Neither did Mom. Lily was still in treatment. I heard she'd transferred to a specialty hospital on her own. No more begging for alternative cures. No more making Mom run around chasing miracle treatments. Aunt Doreen showed me the news article. You really don't want the house? I bent down to tie my shoes. Nope. She sighed. That's a lot of money. I'll make my own. She looked at me for a long time. Then she reached over and patted my head. My ivy's all grown up. I didn't say anything. I just tied my laces tight, stood up, and walked toward the track. Sunlight beat down on the rubber surface. Heat rose up from the ground. I stepped onto the track. My feet were steady. Chapter 12. I was 18 when I made the national team. On my first day, there was a new banner hanging over the entrance to the training center. I dragged my new suitcase inside. The wheels rolled smooth and quiet on the floor. No scraping. No rattling. Coach Holden walked me to the gate. He'd moved up to the National Youth Program over the years, but he still tapped his stopwatch against his palm the same way he always did. Don't be stubborn out there, he said. If you're hurt, say something. I looked at him. You've been saying that for 11 years. He smiled a little, then listened to it for 11 more. Aunt Doreen stood next to him. She pressed a little paper Lucky Charm into my hand. I know it's silly. Just humor an old woman. I put it in my pocket. The paper was soft against my palm, worn thin from her squeezing it so much. My phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. I opened the message. It was from Mom. A long text. She said she was in therapy, that she'd finally realized she'd let her fear become love, and control become sacrifice. She said Dad had downsized the company. They'd sold one of the houses to pay for Lily's treatment. She said Lily was learning to give herself her own shots, keep track of her own allergies. She had good days and bad days, but she didn't ask anyone to save her anymore. At the end, she wrote, I don't expect you to come home. I just wanted to ask if I could come watch one of your races. From far away. I won't bother you. I read it once. Then I locked my phone. Coach Holden said, Who is that? Someone from a long time ago. You gonna reply? I put my phone back in my pocket. Nah, my first open meet after joining the team was a full house. I was warming up when I spotted them in the very back of the stands. Mom was wearing a hat, sitting way off to the side. Dad was next to her. His shoulders were hunched a little more than I remembered. Lily was there too, wearing a mask, holding a bottle of water. They didn't hold up signs. They didn't yell my name. They just sat there. The starting gun fired. I took off. This time, I didn't think about them at all. I only heard my own breath. I only saw the track in front of me. My body fell into rhythm. Every step was steady, stronger than the last. On the last lap, the crowd roared so loud the stand shook. I crossed the finish line with a new personal best. My teammates swarmed me. My coach clapped me on the back. Reporters crowded around. Someone said, "Ivy, was your family here today? Did they give you extra motivation?" I wiped sweat off my face with a towel and looked right at the camera. No, the reporter blinked. I said, "I got here because I trained for 11 years. The quote went around after the meet. Some people said I was cold. Some people said that's just who Ivy Reed is. I left through the athlete tunnel after the race. Mom was standing around the corner. She didn't come close. She just set a small box down on a bench. Ivy." I stopped. Her voice was rough. "It's old photos of you. From when you were little. I found them when I was cleaning out the attic. You don't have to keep them. I just wanted you to have them." I stared at the box. Her fingers were shaking. She wanted to step forward, but she didn't. I used to think as long as Lily stayed alive, everything else could wait. I didn't understand that the person you set aside can stop waiting. Her throat tightened. "I'm not asking you to forgive me." I looked at her. A long time ago. I thought if I ever heard her say that, I'd cry. I'd yell. I'd list every single thing she'd done and make her listen. But now, I was just tired. Not the tired you feel after a 10-mile run. The tired of finally not having to carry her mistakes with you anymore. I said, "I'm doing really well, Ms. Reed." All the color drained out of her face. "I'm gonna keep doing really well," I said. She nodded. Tears hit the floor. "Good. That's all I want." I didn't pick up the box. I walked past her. The door at the end of the tunnel was open. Outside, there was wind. And lights. And my teammates yelling for me to come get dinner with them. Behind me, I heard quiet, muffled crying. I didn't look back. Later, a staff member brought the box to me. I opened it. There were a few old photos inside. One of me and Lily in matching dresses. One of me standing next to a birthday cake. But all the candles were in front of Lily. One of me, before I turned 7, standing on the balcony holding a little potted gardenia. On the back, in Mom's new handwriting, there was one line, "I hope someone loves you like you deserve." I ran my finger over the words. The edge of the photo was thin, sharp enough to nick my finger. I put the photos back in the box, closed the lid, and handed it to Coach Holden. "Mail it to Aunt Doreen, will you? She likes keeping that kind of stuff." He looked at me. "You don't want to keep any?" I shook my head. "I don't need old photos to prove I'm real." That night, I went for my usual cool-down run. The lights of the training center came on one by one as the sun went down. I stopped at the end of the track and looked down at my shadow. It stretched long under the streetlights, then followed me when I took a step. I thought about that day when I was 7, standing at the school gate, wind cold on the back of my hands. Mom telling me there was only room for one daughter. Back then, I thought if you got thrown out, you just stood outside the door forever. Now I know there are roads outside the door too. I ran down those roads for 11 years. It was a long road, and it was bright.